Hello all. Welcome back to another great video, and in this one we are going to look into how can we implement a simple movie search and filter web page using vanilla JS, that is simple HTML, JS, CSS. That's it. To fill you in, basically this was the question asked by Headout in their round 1 for a senior front-end engineer role, right? And you would ask me how did I find it? So basically I was traveling traveling through Medium, surfing through Medium or different blogs, and this blog specifically came up on my homepage. And you can see it's for Headout Senior Software Engineer Front End Interview Experience. So this particular blog has quite a lot of different rounds that they took. There was a system design round, there was a front end development vanilla JS round. I believe after that there was also a hiring manager round. So a lot of different stuff, right? And we will be dwelling deep into this one by one. But for the context of this video, we are going to focus on the round one JavaScript coding challenge, real-time movie search and filter assignment, basically, right? Cool. If you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, click all different buttons to just let you know. I write a Medium article for people who like to read through articles, who like to read through tutorials, as well as sharing code snippets is easier through articles. So you can also head out to my Medium. That will be linked in the description. And check this article out. Or if you like videos, you are already here. All right, now let's dive into it. So let me just take you through the problem statement quickly. So there are a few things that are asked by the interviewer. One is that they want you to create an unstyled list of movies. So they just want you to show the list of movies you have, right? Second, they want you to implement real-time search using substring matching. So to the ones who do not know what substring matching is, so basically they just want you to look for any set of word that is similar to the search term. So for example, the name of the movie is Harry Potter and I searched pot, then it should return the movie Harry Potter, right? Similarly, the third thing that they want is genre based filtering. So based on movies, so for example, if there's a horror movie and there's maybe a thriller movie or something else, right? So if I look for horror movies, then it should automatically show me only the movies in that particular genre. Cool. And one last thing they also need is subsequence matching. Those are the same way that we were looking for a substring inside a string for matching, we will be looking at subsequence. Now you would ask, what is a subsequence? So subsequence can be any sequence of characters, right? So a very easy definition would be, if you're given a word, if you're given a string, okay, and if you delete any number of characters from that string, whatever remains can be called a subsequence, right? So if I have the word Harry and I delete R, I delete A from it, H R Y would be a subsequence, right? So any string that has a matching subsequence should also be returned through our search method. Cool. I hope this makes it pretty clear, right? It is not something out of the world. And let's waste no more time, right? So first thing that we need to do is actually fetch the movie from the database. So the interviewer has already given you an API. So if you click on this link in the article, you will see that this is the API that they have provided, that basically returns you a raw JSON that contains different movies, right? So you can see there are a lot of parameters provided. There's a title, year, rated. You would also see that there's genre here, right? And which is a very important parameter for us. So we will be making use of genre and we'll be making use of title for most of the search facilities that we have. Cool. So now we know what API we have. Now let's go and write a function or a method function to fetch this particular movie DB. By the way, one more thing that they mentioned is you cannot use any third-party libraries. You have to implement everything using vanilla JS, right? So I can't use something like Axios for fetching this data. I have to use the native fetch method that JavaScript provides. All right. So let us come here. All right. So let us write our first method, that is fetch movies, right? Inside fetch movies, I will simply use the fetch method that we have. One thing you have to remember is that fetch is an asynchronous method. So you need to put it in an async block and you need to use await, right? So whatever response I get, I will be putting it in here, movies response. And inside fetch, we'll put that that URL of our API so that we get the response here. So I just put the URL simply here. Now we have some response, assuming we have some response. Now we will extract the actual content, right? The JSON of the particular response that we have got. So we have got some movies here and we will try to print it, see exactly what do we have, what we are expecting that we have, right? So I'm using Node.js here for testing. If you see, I will just call the method right here so that It gives me some response, and you can see we already have the movies out here, right? So we are able to basically console the movies very easily, and I think we are at a good stage right now. uh, all right, so we have a facility to fetch movies, right? So now let us try to list these movies in our, yeah, in our website. To do that, I'll just simply create a HTML website and have a head here, then maybe a body here. Cool. And I will write movies list, right? One thing we need to do is we need to import the script that we just wrote, right? The script src is equal to dot slash index dot js. All right, what am I typing? Okay, so we have our index.js here. We have imported it. You can also mention type as well if you want. It is a very good practice to do so. So we'll just type type JavaScript, and we are good to go. Now, what we need to do next is we need to call the fetch method, fetch movies method, right? So to do that, I will create another script here and maybe call fetch movies, right? Just to see whether it works or not, right? And here, this fetch movies I will delete because we don't need it anymore. Okay, let's test it out. So for testing it out, actually, I'll be using live server instead of simply opening the index.html because it might lead to a coarse error when we are calling a third-party API. And I would suggest anybody else to do the same. Okay, yeah. So it is starting our code, and yep, I believe the code is started. Let me take you back to Chrome. Here you can see that our website. Yeah, so here we can see that the movies that we are trying to console are already here. You can see that there are total around 16 entries. We have different movies like Avatar. We have a movie called I Am Legend. We have 300 here, Avengers, and a lot more. Right? Cool. Now we were able to get the movies in our console, but the next step for us is to show these the titles of these movies as an list in the website. So let us go back to our VS Code and make it happen. All right. So to do this, I'll simply create an unordered list here, right? I will call it as movies list. Okay. So I've given it an ID as movies list. Now I need to insert what I would say the movie titles inside this unordered list. To do that, what we will do is we'll write another method right here called function populate movies in list, right? And one more thing that we can do is anyway we are fetching the movies, right? So and the movies will be the movies JSON will be used across all different methods that we'll be writing. So one thing you can do is you can make this variable global. So I can have movies like something like this, and instead putting it here, this should work like a charm. Okay, so that now I don't have to send the movies as a parameter to populate movies in a list method, and it can directly communicate it with it globally. Cool. Now the next thing we need to do is first we need to get the inner HTML of the list element. Right. Once you get it, we need to update the inner HTML with list elements, that is movie titles. Right. And then the third one that we need to do is we need to update the inner the list component actually with the new inner HTML. So let us do that. Right. So what we did, I created a list element is equal to document dot get element by id movie list dot inner HTML. So I have a list element now. I'll name it as element. Yeah, I have a list element now. So what I would do, I would traverse the movies that I have. So for each movie tool, I will be updating the list element as such. That is, in list element, I will be adding li. That is, that the element this particular tag would work inside an unordered list to assume that this is a list element. So I just used li here, and between I provided the movie title, so it should act as a bulleted unordered list for the user on our website when I try to update it. Even at the last step, so looking at the code, we have updated the list element with all different movies. Now last thing we need to do is we need to just copy this here, copy the inner HTML here, and set it to list element. Cool. So this should make it work. Yeah, this should make it work. I don't see any problem here. One thing we need to do is simply go here and call the populate movies in list method. All right. So I have done that, and let's check it out whether it works or not. I am not really sure whether it will work or whether it won't. So yeah, only one way to find out. So we are back at Chrome, right? And it seems we have some error that cannot read properties of null. All right, all right, okay. So basically, it is not able to read our document.get element by ID for some reason. So let's go back to our code, try to figure out how to solve this. Okay, so we were looking at why did the code give a null pointer error on our inner HTML call. The reason is so stupid. In our index HTML, we have given the ID of movies list, and we are trying to extract movie list, right? So just go here, make all the movie to movies, right? One more thing you need to see here is the title is in starting with a capital letter, so it's movie dot title, right? So this should make our code work. Let us go back to Chrome and check it out if it does, right? So now you can see, yeah, we have our first movies list in the website, which is a big thing, right? So we have a movies list. So if we go back to our code, right, we have the first requirement complete. We have an unstyled list of movies. Cool. The next thing that we need to do is we need to implement a search facility, the basically a substring matching facility. All right. So for that, what we need, one first thing is we need an input box. So let's create an input box. Go back to our VS code, right? So here we are in our HTML file. I will simply create an input box. Input type text, right? And let's have a placeholder, a simple placeholder that says search by name. Cool. And on, you can use an on change method actually if you want. If you can use something else, it's all up to you. Okay, so on change, what we would do is we would call a method called search movie, right? And that's it. So we have an input box, we have a placeholder called search by name, and we will call a method called search movie. Let us just go to Chrome and see if this actually works. So you can see, okay, we have a search box in place where I can type stuff. All right. Now what we need to do is we need to write the search movie script movie method. To do that, let's go back to our JSON JS the script file. We have write a method called search movie. Okay, make it function search movie. So it needs to do a few things. It needs to fetch the value from the input field. Yeah. Then it needs to check for substring in all movies. And yeah, third thing it needs to do is update the list with the filtered movies. Cool. Okay. All right. So this seems pretty straightforward. Let's try to do it and see what happens. Okay. So what I will do is I will fetch the search input. Right. You can see here that I'm using an ID called search input. Let's use the same ID on our input field. So I provided an ID here. ID is equal to search input. All right. So here we should get our search value. Now, assuming that we have a search value, next thing we need to do, we need to check it over all different movies that we have. So we'll simply use movies, right? And you can do something like this. So basically, you will use a filter over it, and actually don't put it inside movies because that would break. Call it filtered movies. Okay, so filtered movies, movies.filter, and it checks whether the title of each movie is included with the search value that we have provided, right? The search term that we have, and the filtered movies, then you would have to update them in your, yeah, in your basically list that you had, right? So to do that, I'll just actually copy paste this flow here. Actually, ideally, I should provide it as an input to this method, populate movies in list. I'm thinking what I should do. Okay, so let's do one thing, right? Call this as movies list, and the movies list will come as an input, right? And in our initial method that we had, fetch movies, I provide the movies that we had extracted as an input, and in this one, I will provide the filtered movies that we have as an input. All right. One thing you need to make sure is you need to make sure to set the document.inner.html as empty, else it will keep appending movies after each other, right? So we cleared the list before populating, and then we do the same. So search movies should work this way. Let's go to our website and see whether what we have done really makes sense. So we're back at Chrome, right? And I will also open up the console for you, right? So that if we have any error, we know that. So what I will search is I will search for the word legend, and you can see it works. We have got our first search or filtering facility working, right? So the second thing that we had, implement a real-time search using search substring matching. Now that feature works, right? The third thing that we need to do is we need to enable gender-based filtering, genre-based filtering. My bad. Okay, to do that, let's go back to VS Code, see what we can do there. We are back here on VS Code, and honestly, to do the genre-based filtering, I will implement the same logic. I'll just copy it here and create a new input box. I'll call it search by genre, and on change it will also call the search movie method, and the ID I will change it to search genre. So you would ask me, Apur, why we are using search movie method again? That's because I'm going to update this particular method in such a way that it will also accept the genres that we will be providing, right? So the same way we fetch the search value, right? I will be fetching the search genre, okay? And the ID here I'll update it with search genre. So we have the genre that we need to search for, right? So one thing that I'll do when returning this, I will just do an AND operation. Use the same way that we checked for titles. I will just search for genre instead. So GENRE, right? So if the genre is included in the search genre, so if search genre is included in the genre of the movie, then only it will be returned, right? Okay. So if what I've written makes sense, let us go to our website and see if it works again. So here we are again. We have an input box called search genre. So I'll just simply write maybe horror, right? And you can see it works. I got the movie I Am Legend because it's a horror movie, right? If I write something else, maybe if I write action, so I will get all the action movies that we have. Now you would ask, okay, but what if I search using name as well, right? So it will, both the filters should work simultaneously, genre as well as name filtering. So if I write avatar, it will only return avatar. Cool. Okay, so now we have one more thing down, that is the genre-based filtering also works. Now, one and final thing that we need to do is we need to implement subsequence matching. Now, that is also not that difficult. So let's go ahead back to our VS Code, make sure it happens. Okay, so for that, I will just create another method called is subsequence of, right? And what it would accept is it would accept the string and sequence. That's it. So, and I'll keep the sequence index at 0, string index at 0. What has happened here? Okay, string index at 0. Okay, so that it starts from I have two pointers, basically one pointer on the beginning of string, one pointer at beginning of sequence. Now what we do is we'll just simply traverse each character one by one, and if a character matches the sequence, the character at the sequence index of the sequence, then that means we have found at least one correct character, and then we move forward, right? We increase the pointer for sequence, and anyway we are going to increase the pointer for string index until its length finishes. So let's go ahead and we'll use a while loop actually. So the while loop will work until sequence index is less than sequence.length and string index is less than string.length. Further, you can see if the sequence index and string index, right, the character set sequence of sequence index and string at the string index are same, we increase the sequence index as I told you. And if r or if aren't, we are anyway going to increase the string index. That is, we are going to move to the next character on our string, right? And if all of this works fine, right? So ideally the sequence index would be equal to sequence dot length. And if it is not, that means we have not found our complete sequence. So you can simply return if sequence index is equal to sequence dot length, that means you have found a valid C subsequence in the particular string. All right. Now, okay. What else do we need to do? Yeah, well, we have written the method is subsequence of. So just at the end of the search method, add one more condition, call your is subsequence of, provide your movie title there and the search value that you have, right? So I'm using the search box that I have for both for searching as well as for subsequence matching, right? So substring matching as well as subsequence matching. But you need to make sure you need to make sure that it is an or rather than and, right? So it can either be a substring matching or it can also be a sequence matching. So if any of the two conditions match, that means you are good to go. That's why we are not doing an and, because it is okay. So on the top here it searches for substring matching, on bottom here it searches for subsequence. If any of those are true, then it will look whether the genre is matching. If that is also matching, then it will populate your movie list, right? I hope this works, and if it does, then we are pretty much done with this assignment. Okay, so let us go back to our website, and yeah, here we are. Now what I will do is I will look for the movie Luke Cage. Right, it's actually a series Luke Cage, right? So if I write L and C here, it should return me Luke Cage. So let us write LC here, and you can see here it returned the movie Luke Cage to me, and that is how we know that our subsequence matching works. All right, so I guess that's all there was to this video. We have completed all the points in the checklist. Whatever they asked for, we did it, we provided. So next one, we'll go into round 2 of this senior software engineer interview and see how we match up, right? How we match up to the role of senior software engineer, whether we are good enough to get into Headout. All right, see you next time. Bye bye.